Welcome to Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I hope your week is going well, and I've found you in a very good place. So welcome to Podcast 101. Hey, we are talking about coaching your staff according to their style. And today we're going to do a deep dive on the personality type of influence. So just a quick recap, if you haven't been with us the last couple of weeks, there are 4 major personality types. And I like to identify them all with a soundbite and an avatar because I think it makes it easier to remember. Now, all of us are a mix of the 4 styles. No one is purely one style. So you may hear some traits in one style that actually you have, but you feel like you have a lot more of this other style. Well, that's totally normal. In fact, as a facilitator of these assessments, I get a nifty little report that's called the Facilitator's Report that tells me the exceptions, the questions that you answered contrary to the boilerplate of that personality type. So, for example, one of the liabilities of the dominant style is that they may be considered insensitive, but some D personality type people will answer the question, I am sensitive to other people's needs. So that's an exception to that report, and we all have them. So a quick recap of the 4, and if you're all caught up with us on the podcast, you can just use the chapters in the show notes below to skip to when we get into the detail on the I. So imagine a clock face. From 9 to 12, that space is occupied by the D personality type. It is quick-paced, questioning, and skeptical, tends to be outgoing. Their soundbite or their mantra is get it done, and their avatar is LeBron James or Donald Trump. Okay? If you move from the 12 to the 3 on the clock, that's occupied by our influence style. That's who we're going to do a deep dive on today. Their mantra is let's get together, and their avatar is Richard Branson. It's like life's a party. The 3 to 6 is occupied by our S style, our steady style. Their mantra is let's all get along. Oprah is their avatar. And from 6 to 9 is our C style, conscientious style, that is all about getting it right, and Steve Jobs is their avatar. Bottom half of the clock, more quiet, reserved, slower pace. Top half of the clock, quick pace, tends to be more outgoing. Right side of the clock, warm and accepting. Left side of the clock, questioning and skeptical. So you can do your people reading starting now. So let's get into the detail on the influence style. So remember, our avatar for that is Oprah Winfrey. I'm sorry. Let me go back. The I is Richard Branson. Life is a party. So, those would be opposite, and I would put you guys on the wrong page if I said that. So sorry, getting ahead of myself. So, how do we know the I style? Well, all of us DISC facilitators make this joke that the I is lowercase on the DISC, acronym, because we need to tone these people down a little bit. They are very enthusiastic. They are outgoing. They are optimistic, very high-spirited and lively. So sometimes if you're a reserved person and you're around one of these colleagues, or if this is one of your children, you're kind of like, not my thing. You might feel like they're unprofessional, or they don't follow through, or they're kind of flaky or something like that because they're having so much fun they can't possibly be getting work done. But they really are. And every team needs an I in their organization. They need someone who is enthusiastic about supporting one another, very socially oriented, And that's the glue that keeps people together. I love to think of the I as kind of the white space in the organization. They're going to fill the gaps. They will notice. They'll check in on people, things like that. They really like to stay connected. So if you're a leader of an I person, well, how do you manage this person? Because they're big personalities. Well, we need to adapt our style. Now, if you're an I person, it's like, no problem. They get me. Now, it doesn't mean that you're exact duplicates of one another. As I mentioned earlier, there are exceptions to every personality type and how they answer. But what they really value is expressing that enthusiasm. They want to be themselves. They want to bring their whole selves to work. They want to be expressive. I went to a talk this summer with one of these folks, and they had their signature red eyeglasses. But starting at this new company, they felt like, maybe that's too much. So they left them in the car. And they really felt like they were missing a part of themselves by kind of dumbing themselves down by not expressing that. So that's a good example of like something that an I might feel. They love taking action. These people are masters at kicking off activities. So whether it's a new campaign or you need someone to rally the troops, they love doing that. They love to collaborate. They love to work in meetings. These people will have 8 back-to-back meetings in a day, and they will be like, yes, it was so great. And they feel like they're getting their work done in those meetings, where the rest of us personality types kind of feel like, when am I going to get my work done? I have to be in all these meetings. So they're very motivated by social recognition. So if it came to rewarding employees and you had the opportunity, and again, I would check in with your employee because they might have an exception. This person would love the trophy or the plaque, something that they can show off, or they would love a party where they get to invite all their friends, okay? They don't necessarily want the bonus. Times are different. They might want both. But they love that social recognition. They love having friendly relationships with people. When people are reduced to bullets or transactions, that's super frustrating for this type. And a lot of eyes are drawn to the sales profession. They love calling on their clients, and their clients are their friends. They don't see a distinction or a separation. They are afraid of rejection, disapproval, loss of influence, or the very, very worst, being ignored. So that's something to be very sensitive to, because they may feel like if someone else on the team is recognized and they did something similar and they weren't recognized, it might feel like a put down to them. They are very charming people. They're enthusiastic, social, optimistic, very talkative. So sometimes people will feel like, oh, there's too much chit chat going on. But for them, it's rapport building, and they feel like they can work that much faster because the trust is there. So super important to take that into consideration. Some of their limitations or liabilities. Again, every personality type has these their own set of liabilities, but the common ones for the I are that they can be impulsive, they can be disorganized, and their follow through is not their most positive trait. So they're great at kicking off. The care and feeding, where it gets a little more mundane, is not interesting enough for them. They don't really like to do that. And there are other personality types that love the care and feeding. So it's good for those to work together and make that transition. I work with a lot of sales folks, and they can be challenging in that they have a hard time doing their expense reports, following through with the orders. You know, they have the great win where they get the big order, but then they don't always put it through. Their calendars can be a bit of a mess. And so having these folks partner with someone who's really steady and likes the accuracy can be super helpful. So, having an I personality type assistant to an I leader could be disastrous. So again, there's always exceptions, but we're talking about the boilerplate here. And I do want to add, we never want to hire someone based on their personality type. We don't want to say, oh, you're an I, you'd be a great salesperson. Or we don't have any I's on our team, we want to hire an I. We don't use this tool for that. In fact, we don't want to pigeonhole anybody, and we don't want to give them excuses for their behavior just because their personality type is famous for it. So, just because you got an I on the team does not mean they're in charge of the fundraiser or organizing the company picnic. That may not be what they want to do, or they may try to avoid being seen in that light. So, the I person, or whether it's a child, whether it's a teammate, they really need the ability to shine. They want to express themselves fully. They don't want to be locked into, a brown cardboard box. That would be like torture for them. They want things to be colorful and expressive and fun. So try not to limit them in that capacity, but do give them support where they either have multiple milestones or they have a partner that can keep them on track. And having the ability to transition care and feeding of a project or a task to someone who's more steady and stable can be very helpful for this employee. So I want you to think about yourself on the clock, your personality type. Are you more outgoing, more reserved? Are you more warm and accepting, or questioning and skeptical? If you are reserved and questioning and skeptical, you're probably what we call the C type, and that's the opposite of this influence type. And you will have the hardest time with them because you're like, show me the data. And they'll be like, but it feels good. So you'll need to be very intentional to work together where the I knows that they have to bring the data to support it, and that you recognize that fun is part of the equation and makes things better. So some serious compromise there. If you're an S or you're a D, you share one component with that I type, and so leverage that, lean on that. Next week, we're going to be talking about the S type. And as a reminder, that avatar is Oprah, and their soundbite is let's all get along. So be sure to join us for that. In the meantime, if you're like, I love this, I need more of this for my team, I know how to do this with each of my team members, but they don't know how to do it with each other, this is one of the very best tools to do that. And there's a string of follow-up activities you can do to keep it fresh and really apply it. So I'm booking workshops end of October, November, early December. And there's lots of variations we can do, from a 1-hour workshop to a full day workshop, in person or virtual. You just let me know what you need and we can work with that. So just give me contact at podcast@Shauna Corden or Shauna@ShaunaCorden.com, and we'll get you taken care of. So in the meantime, don't forget, we've got a YouTube channel of this podcast if you're listening. But in the meantime, take good care.